to another episode of Firehouse Problems Kitchen Table Solutions, where we discuss everyday firehouse problems around our kitchen table with your hosts Seth Rainwater and Will Silly.
And welcome back to another episode of Firehouse Problems Kitchen Table Solutions with your host Will Silly.
And I'm Seth Rainwater.
And we are excited to be back after a little bit of a break.
Yeah,
we call it a holiday break.
Yeah.
Because we were busy traveling with the holidays, and I know Seth and his family have been busy as well.
Well, I think I would call it like a post-political issue break, right? Because we're so much work going up to the mayoral election and the city council election that we both were just like, life's dumb.
We needed a break.
Yeah, so as many of you know, our local got involved in a... we turn my headphones up too, Will, while you're preaching? We got involved in a political... my wife's home, if you heard that on the thing. I don't know if that came through or not. I forgot to turn my notifications off. So anyways, we got involved in a local election, and we were very busy with that, and our mayoral candidate lost by 80 votes.
It was disappointing, to say the least.
Yeah, we were up there at the courthouse with him. You know, they're bringing in votes and blah, blah, blah. And then 87 votes.
Yeah. But we had one of our council members that we endorsed win, another one who we decided to stay neutral in his race because both opponents were pretty like-minded. But
right, pretty labor-friendly.
He ended up winning, which I think it's going to work out in our favor.
Right, yeah, we definitely developed a relationship with him. I think had we developed this relationship, say, a year ago, even though we had a really good survey from the other guy, we would have voted to endorse.
Right.
Which, you know, as labor unions go, we voted solely to endorse 3 Republicans. We would have.
That is correct, and it's kind of out of the norm for most labor unions.
Most
of the time, Democrats are better supporters of public safety.
Right, so congrats to Veronica Creer for winning the mayor race. I think she's going to do a good job for us and the city of El Dorado. I'm excited about having her in there, and congrats to Billy Bland to continue to support the fire department, and everybody who running is hard, and everybody who got involved in that, you know, congrats to those guys.
Right. So, what have you been up to, Seth?
Man, since we last spoke, well, you and I talk a lot, but since the last podcast, you know, it's the holiday season, so we did Thanksgiving and Christmas, so we're getting that set up. My wife has finally convinced me to get rid of 2 of our goats.
You're getting rid of the goats.
Okay, so hay, right? Hay's expensive.
Right.
So a horse will eat some hay and go do horse stuff and come back and eat some hay. But a goat will just stand there and eat hay until he explodes, I guess. So I've known people put a round bale of hay out and feed 40 head of cattle for a month. But a round bale of hay lasts 4 goats about a week.
Really?
Oh man. And they got a damn $25 a week hay habit.
That's $100
a month on hay for goats.
That's pretty expensive.
So anyways, Becky's been on me about getting rid of the goats.
Get rid of
and as we talked earlier, the horse we have is not very friendly, and I don't really care for her personality. And
you tried to give it to me earlier.
Yes. And she's made 2 of the other goats be real skittish of people because the horse is skittish of people.
Really?
So you go out there, and used to you'd be surrounded by goat. But now you've got 1 goat that's like, look, these other guys are dumb. You've always been nice. So anyways, we're getting rid of the 2 snob goats, and hopefully soon the snob horse. I'm going to turn that horse into dog food if somebody doesn't...
That's glue. You turn horses into glue.
They used to make dog food out of horses too.
Did they really?
Yeah. Do some research, Wilbur.
Sad.
So what about you? What have you been up to?
Traveling a bunch. We did some traveling over the Thanksgiving week. I went to Kansas City to see some extended family, and that's pretty much it. Been trying to wrap up some projects on...
Brittany, stick your head in the camera and say hello. She doesn't. She's nervous there. She is. Will's wife Brittany's in here.
Yeah, so we have a special guest today. She's not mic'd up today, but maybe next episode.
I think so.
We're planning to do a family Christmas episode.
Yeah, my kids are wicked excited about doing an episode, so we'll bring the wives and the kids on.
Yeah.
I think that'll be exciting.
Mm-hmm.
You agree, Brittany? Yeah, Brittany's all about it.
Yeah, I hadn't told her yet, so that's probably the first she's hearing about
now you know. And you're going to be YouTube famous. I looked at our video last time.
Yeah.
8 views.
8
views.
My goodness, I was 2 of them.
I was probably the other 6. But the average length of watching is like 7 minutes.
Yeah.
It's a 50-minute video. I get it. I wouldn't watch 50 minutes of us.
Right.
I mean, do you listen to the show?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I listen to the show too. So
Usually on trips.
yes,
Because a lot of times Brittany's not here, so she can't hear them. So, like, I'll tell her what we talked about, but then I'll listen to it so she can get the full experience.
I listen to only podcasts. I don't listen to anything on the radio.
Yeah,
but
I'm a
podcasts.
music guy, mainly on trips.
So I listen to. What have I listen to? I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to the Art of Manliness. I listen to the Combustible podcast now. I listen to Mortified, which is where these people read entries from their junior high and high school journals.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
That's kind of interesting.
There's a Mortified on Netflix. You can watch them actually get up on stage and read them. It's pretty bomb. So.
And if you are a new listener to the show, look at episodes 85, because this is 86, and we have a podcast about podcasts. Well, mainly it's about books or reading material, but we also cover some podcasts in there.
Right on. So you went to Kansas.
Yeah, we went to Kansas City.
And there was a lot of snow.
So we're coming back on the Monday after Thanksgiving. The Sunday after Thanksgiving, Kansas City area got hit by a Winter Storm Michael. They actually named winter storms now.
I didn't know that.
And we got about 5.5 inches of snow with a layer of ice underneath it.
Nice.
So roads were tricky to say the least. On Sunday afternoon, we went out to eat with a friend Sunday after church, and it was like 37, 38 degrees that morning when we got up. But then it dropped like to 20 degrees in an hour, and so the rain that had been going on froze. The snow was coming down horizontal. The wind was blowing so hard, and we almost got stuck in our two-wheel drive 4Runner. It was not good.
I love this. I love that type of weather. I
do too. I typically love driving the snow, but I love driving the snow in a four-wheel drive vehicle.
Right.
But when I've got only a two-wheel drive vehicle that's rear-wheel drive, it can make it interesting. So.
Absolutely. You know, it's funny. You got all these people with these big trucks, and they think, "Oh yeah, my big truck's gonna kick butt in the snow." But really, front-wheel drive cars do really well.
Four-wheel drive can give you a false sense of security, in that four-wheel drive doesn't help you stop any quicker than a normal car. But definitely, when you get off on the side of the road and you can't get going because you only have two-wheel drive, it does stink.
You know, I guess the reason a front-wheel drive car does so well is the engine's above the...
Right, you have all the weight in the front.
I remember one year when it snowed, I had to go, like my boss at Brookshire's was like, "You got no choice but to be a work kid. You got to be here to carry groceries outside." Because both people that bought groceries that day needed help with it. So anyways, you know those big blocks that they put in front of parking spots so you don't drive over them?
The pylons?
Yeah.
Or maybe they're not called, I would call them pylons.
Yeah, but we had some of those, I don't know where my dad got them, but they were there so you know when to stop when you pull in the garage.
Yeah.
And so he and I picked those things up and put them on the back of my truck. Threw a little extra weight in there. We had 4 or 5 of them, and I drove my two-wheel drive 85 Chevy pickup to work.
Yep, they're probably fine.
So, yeah.
Like, the snow wouldn't have been bad, but the ice underneath is what made it near impossible to stop and to get going again.
And most of the time, that's what we have here. We have ice storms. They don't name them. Maybe they should. Ice Storm Ramos.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. So, anything else been going on with you?
That's about it. Just been plugging along.
You know what it's time for?
It's time for...
Fire News.
Down. And we just blew out
everybody's eardrums. I was like, I almost died just then. Like, I feel like my heart exploded.
That was pretty crazy. We had a little technical difficulty there.
And it's playing again.
And again, we have Fire News.
It's still playing. Again. I don't know why. We're having all kinds of technical difficulties here.
That's what makes this show awesome, is it's...
And you know, if I was a good editor, I would fix that in post. But I won't.
That's fine.
Because it's a lot of effort.
It is.
You cut that little section out, and you got to cut them out of every one of them. And if you don't, then I'm talking about something over the top of you talking about something. So it's crazy. Hey, before we get started on Fire News, Thanksgiving-wise, how was your Thanksgiving?
It was good. I had a lot to be thankful for this year, and got to spend some good time with family and eat some good food. So
mine was yes and no. It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
My dad bought a new fryer. Okay. To cook turkeys. Now, fried turkeys is what we do in the South. I don't know if everybody fries turkeys, but we fry them.
Right.
So my dad bought this electric countertop turkey fryer, and it's made to fry turkeys, and you put the grease in there. And
inside?
But we didn't do it inside because you're still gonna make a mess. And the first turkey was on point. The grease got hot, fried the first turkey. It was great, crispy, beautiful, just good.
Yeah.
The second and third turkeys that we fried didn't turn out that way. Never did. the grease didn't get hot enough to crunch up the bird.
So it's like soggy turkey.
Oh, and so you just cook something in grease longer, which makes it absorb more grease, and it was just a greasy bird.
Yeah.
So the second turkey we ate, the third turkey Eloy got that my dad works with. Sorry, Eloy. you all died young. Also, I got drunk before lunch.
Yeah.
I took a back pill because my back was hurting really bad from helping drag some people out of a car the night before.
Yeah.
And anyways, so then I was drunk and tired and weird the rest of the day.
Yeah. So it makes a buzz on things.
Yeah, well, everybody else was having a good time. I mean, I didn't have a bad time.
Yeah.
I just ate food and sat there and, like, stared at people. I don't know what I was doing, so weird day. So my fire news is pretty simple. It works out kind of neat. Well, a couple of weeks ago, I don't remember exactly when, we had talked about how firefighters are called to do random calls. They're there for everything, like cat in a tree, kid in a tree, whatever. Firefighters are called to solve this problem.
Right.
So I actually found this on Facebook. It was shared by the Fayetteville Fire Department, which works out because I'm wearing a Fayetteville Fire Department shirt. I'm wearing their breast cancer awareness shirt.
It's pretty awesome.
Didn't do that on purpose, but I saw this last night. And so it's Fayetteville firefighters, along with concerned citizens, rescue 2 buck deer that had their antlers locked up in northeast Fayetteville while fighting. It's not that uncommon for bucks to get their antlers locked together while fighting for breeding rights over a doe. The owner stated that they had been hooked together for 2 hours. Both deer ran off after they were freed and are still roaming the neighborhood. I'll share that on our Facebook page, but it just goes on to show you, you know, like, when there's a problem, regardless of what it is, people seem to think that firefighters can solve said problem. So there's, like I said, a cat stuck in the tree. My kid got his foot stuck between 2 boards. I'm having a heart attack. I spilled, the worst chemical in the history of time. Killer tomatoes are running the streets. They're going to call the fire department, and here we are, some firemen with getting 2 deer unhung from each other.
Right. I think,
Random.
I'm trying to remember. It was an Arkansas fire department, I want to say, but there was a deer that was stuck in a wrought iron fence. Like, got its, there's right before the hindquarters. There's kind of a skinny spot, and so they were using the spreaders, hydraulic spreaders, to spread the gate apart for the fence, whatever it was, and then it ran out. So
that's my fire news for the week.
Yeah, that's very interesting news. My fire news is, it's interesting, but everybody probably knows about the wildfires going on in California that I believe most have been...
Right, they're under control.
They all are under control, at least. May not be out completely, but under control. So in 2018, the California wildfires have ravaged more than 1.2 million acres, destroyed 1,200 homes, and killed at least a dozen people. So I don't know. I know there's been some bad wildfires in the past, but it just seems like this year it's been a topic of conversation. It's been in the news a lot more. 12 people dying. You never want to see that. So.
Yeah, I think it's been actually now they've listed at more than 12. Yeah, I think it's up to 40 something.
Really?
And they're like still 600 missing.
I'm sure if they're just now. It's just in this last month that they've getting it under control. So all the search and rescue and or body recovery is going on now.
Right. You and I've talked about wildland firefighting. That's not for me. It's hard.
No, it's a different breed of firefighting. Like to me, it's our job as urban firefighters or whatever you want to call it. Where we're responding to house fires, maybe a few grass fires, but when you're talking about acres and acres burning and digging the fire lanes, and it's very manual labor.
Right.
And you can get yourself in a pickle because you're out there by yourself with your team. We had 2 years ago, the group of firefighters died in California. They made a movie about. So you can get yourself hurt. Really
it can happen easy. So. And it's also it's nonstop manual labor. From start to finish, it's not spraying water, it's not dragging hose, it's raking and shoveling and cutting stuff down. It is miserable work, and so props to those guys. I've got some friends in Arizona that they're actually at a career department where they do structural firefighting, but the state of Arizona will bring them in to fight wildfires and then pay backfill to cover their spots.
Oh, wow.
So I've got some friends that'll go out and do 3-week tours or 2-week tours, fighting fire, and then come back to their regular job. So those guys are out there doing that. Mad props to those guys who are willing to put forth that kind of do that work.
Definitely.
And then thoughts and prayers for the families that have lost things. Can you imagine knowing your job now as a firefighter, that everything you're doing is just looking for burnt bodies.
Yeah, I mean,
it's this every day. That what are we going to do today? Well, we're going to search these 62 houses and see if there's anybody dead in there.
right.
That sounds absolutely miserable and life altering, and so props to those guys who are out there doing that, and
Definitely.
thoughts and prayers for their families, and thank for what they're doing out there. So just appreciate their job and their service. I hate saying that. Appreciate your service. Thank you for your service. I don't know. Not that I don't know. There's a lot of times that people use that to make fun of firefighters now about your service or whatever.
Really?
Where firefighters are looking for that, like you go to a restaurant, there's a group of guys that want people to look at them and say, "Oh, thank you for your service."
Right.
If you don't thank me for my service directly, I'm going to have PTSD for not getting thanked for my service.
No, I mean, we appreciate it, but our job is very thankless. We've talked
Right.
about this on the show before, but I don't have to have every time I go in a restaurant,
Right.
I want to wear. I mean, I wear some of my I wear a lot of union T-shirts off duty, and I'll wear my fire department T-shirt very rarely. But I know some guys, it's like that's all they wear
Right.
is fire department T-shirts, so everybody can know, hey, I'm a firefighter.
Yeah, I used to be.
And,
I used to wear them all the time. When I first got on the job, man, I wore a fire department T-shirt every day.
Yeah, I was the same way.
But I don't really much. I wear a lot of union shirts, and I wear a lot of union shirts from a lot of other departments.
Right.
But if I go to a big town, sometimes I'll buy a shirt. I've got an FDNY shirt. I've got a New Orleans Fire shirt. So, and I've got a lot of union buddies now that they'll send me shirts. My friend Barry Byer sent me the Smashville Fire shirt.
Really?
And I like the Smashville Fire shirt. But Tim Dupin sent me a couple of Kansas City shirts. So I always appreciate that. And I've sent those guys some stuff. So, right on. So. So we were talking about like I said, we're planning a Christmas episode, so we're going to get this one out, and then right before Christmas, we'll do the other one. We'll get together and maybe cook some food and bring everybody in here. But so I was just kind of scrolling through some stuff. I guess it was day before yesterday, maybe.
Yeah, I believe so.
And I came across an article, and I kind of skimmed over it. And I didn't read it really in depth at the time, but I shot it to Will and said, "Hey, what do you think about this article?" And it is not brought to us by FireRescue1.com, the #1 news leader in fire news.
No.
It is brought to us by Firehouse.
Yep.
Do you have a subscription to Firehouse?
I think I get their emails, but I don't get their magazine now.
So I still get the magazine,
Right.
and I bring it to work a lot of times. I keep telling myself I'm going to assign my shift something. I'm going to assign them books, articles to read out of this and copies and emails, but I never do.
Yeah.
Because they assign me EMS stuff to read, and I don't read it. Because I'm the worst. But anyway, the captain of my ship is in charge of EMS training. Like, everybody's in their EMS training for the month except for Chief Rainwater, so my bad. Lead by example. But anyways, this is an article written on Firehouse. It was shared by Firehouse on Facebook. It was written by David Griffin on November the 1st, 2018. It's called Leadership Lessons, 10 Secrets to a More Positive Workplace. David Griffin says it's time to shelve the negativity and make our work look more fun for aspiring leaders. So what do you think about that?
I think it's a very applicable topic, and I just wanted to, I was trying to find some information on this David Griffin, but you click on his name and it says that he's a battalion chief in Charleston, South Carolina. We talked about that department. I believe there was an article of a study based off of them. It was the podcast we did on the kind of how we have to do all kinds of different kinds of jobs.
Right.
And they were looking at Charleston and all the riots and stuff that were going on there. But anyway, yeah, he's from South Carolina. But no, I think
did you read that? It says he's a battalion chief. He was the operator of the first new engine on June 18, 2007, when 9 of his fellow firefighters perished in the Super Sofa fire.
Okay,
So,
yeah,
wow, he lost 9 brothers in there. He got a bachelor's degree in education from the Citadel, a master's in executive fire service leadership, and he has a doctorate of education in organizational leadership and development.
You don't see many guys in the fire service with doctorates.
He's the author of the bestseller In Honor of the Charleston Nine, a study of change following tragedy. Action 9 missions for personal growth, personal and professional growth, and from PTSD to PTG, a firefighter's journey after a multiple line of duty death incident. He's an international speaker and instructor and certified chief training officer and fire officer with the Center for Public Safety Excellence, and is completing the Executive Fire Officer Program at the National Fire Academy. He is the owner of On a Mission LLC at drdavidgriffin.com. This dude right here's got a heck of a resume.
Yeah, I mean, very educated. Been through some stuff in the fire service.
Guaranteed.
I mean, I could imagine losing 9 of your guys in one fire.
It's random, but when the bachelor's program that I went through at Arkansas Tech, Chief Mosley went through the same bachelor's program as well. He's our fire chief at our home department, and you have to do a research project. It's got a name for it, but I can't think of what it's called. But anyways, and it's a huge grade. It's part of your, almost like a thesis, if
Really?
you will. And he did his on comparing practices that the Charleston Fire Department used that led to the death of those 9 firefighters at the Super Sulphur Fire, and compared them to our fire department's SOGs and how similar we were, and how possible it would be for us to have these line of duty deaths. And then he used that as a battalion chief to start trying to change some of our SOGs, and he got some of them changed while he was just a battalion chief, but he completed those changes after he made chief of the department.
Right.
So
Yeah. Well, that's good.
interesting that's small world.
Right, but no, I think it is a very, and I think it boils down to how you do your job makes other people perceive the fire service either in a good light or a bad light.
Okay.
I mean, company officers, I feel like, and he kind of looks at the company officer role, the battalion chief, even, all the way up to a head chief level. But your attitude at work, I think, very significantly influences the attitudes of the people that work under you. So I think this is very important.
Well,
and
you think about, as you said, any, and I say this any, because one of the good things about the job I have, my second job, is I get to travel to a state and work with a lot of fire departments.
right,
You go to any fire department kitchen table, there's a lot of griping and complaining,
there are.
and a lot of that comes from company officers complaining about change. Or our good friend Mark Munger, who's on the show a few months ago now, shared a picture that was like, the only thing firemen hate worse than change is things staying the same. And it's kind of a little trope that I've said on here sometimes. There's lots of complaining that goes on. It's really easy as a company officer or as a fireman to get it sucked into that, sitting in a circle griping.
Right. And I mean, I can only look at, I've experienced some other departments a little bit, but in our department, like in our, most of our companies are 3 main companies. Central Fire Station usually has several more than that. But when I think of the different crews and the crews that I don't necessarily enjoy being around because everything's just so negative, you look at that captain or that assistant chief or whoever's over that crew, and usually they exude that
Right.
negative attitude that then bleeds down to their people.
Attitude reflects leadership.
Yes.
You're right. So what you got to do to be that positive leader, and that's what this article is essentially about.
Right. And
is 10 secrets of happy and successful leaders.
Yes. So he kind of starts out the article. He was at a class. It was actually at the Executive Fire Officer program at the National Fire Academy. And so they'd gone through the class, and at the end of it, everybody had to say something that they had taken away from the class or whatever. And one of these guys who was a captain stood up and was like, he says, it's paraphrasing, but this guy's words were, "I don't know if I want to move to the next level. Being in this class and watching all the chiefs and listening to the stories, I saw that you do not make those positions look like very much fun. I just don't know if it's worth to move to the next level if I have to become unhappy with my work or become a different person. I like my position, I like the work that I do, so why would I move to another position just for some cross bugles?" And apparently that really stuck out to...
How many times have you heard that at our fire department? How many times have you heard guys say, "I've never known a battalion chief that liked being a battalion chief except for this one guy," and they use him as an example for being negative because the guys don't respect him as a fireman.
Right.
And they said, "Well, Chief so-and-so, he liked it. That's because he didn't like to fight fire."
There's this one battalion chief now, Chief Rainwater. I think his guys like him pretty good, though.
I don't know. A lot of times I feel like I didn't change enough after I got promoted. Does that make sense? I still, for pardon me for lack of a better term, but grab ass too much.
Yeah, like to have fun and
yeah,
just
way
kinda
too much.
joke around.
I still play cards with my guys.
But I don't think that's a bad thing. Like, I don't know, and he kind of gets into it a little bit here in the article of like how do you balance that professionalism, and you may have to chew your guy out. But I think let me see if I can find it of how he explained that. He takes a phrase from Chief Alan Brunacini and says what he says is just be nice. I mean, if you've got to discipline your guys, if you got to have a talk with them, you can still be nice about it.
Right.
Now you may have to get serious and make them realize the seriousness of it, but I don't think that means that you can't sit down and play cards with your guys afterwards.
Yeah, I would like to think so, because again, if you can't, and there are guys who would tell me that I can't, it makes this job, because the best part about the fire service isn't the fighting fires or making ambulance runs, make calls, it's the guys you work with. And in order to be a battalion chief, if you have to separate yourself from the guys, then it's not worth being a fireman anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things I really want to point out in this article before we really jump into it is that the actual the list of 10 wasn't written by the guy David Griffin. It was actually by a guy named Lolly, or maybe a woman, Lolly Daskell, President and CEO of Lead From Within. There are 10 secrets to happy and successful leaders. He talks about one of his mantras is don't bring negativity into my positive world. So hopefully, as an officer, you're starting out positive, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But the first thing he says about these happy and successful leaders is their life has purpose and meaning. There's a major component to happiness. What's your purpose and what do you have to do? Or why do you do what you do? Excuse me. So I mean, part of being anything. I shared it when I sent out my morning email to all the stations. I put a leadership quote in every email.
Right.
And one of those quotes I sent out about 5 or 6 days ago was, if you don't know where you're going, you're liable to end up somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't know what your purpose is, if you don't know what what your meaning of this position is, what you're trying to get accomplished, you're liable to end up somewhere that you didn't intend.
Right.
So for me as a new battalion chief, what I want is real camaraderie, where I give my guys a speech about taking care of each other my very first day. That our number one job is to take care of each other. If we find out a guy has a problem, instead of trying to run him up the line and get him fired, our job should be to get this guy fixed.
Mm-hmm.
If he's got a drug problem, our job shouldn't be we need to run him off. Our job should be to get him well.
Right.
If there's a person that's got maybe it's not just all departments, maybe it's just ours, I don't know. But a lot of times you got a firefighter who is lacking in a skill.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of fixing that lacking, teaching that firefighter, improving that skill, they just sit around and complain about it.
Right.
And then gripe about, well, how'd they get this far? How did this person make it to lieutenant if they can't crank a chainsaw? Well, why don't we quit worrying about that and start worrying about how can we teach this lieutenant how to crank a damn chainsaw?
Right.
Let's fix that problem.
Yeah.
So you got to have a purpose, and I agree with this totally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do too. I mean, like you said, if you don't know where you're going, and I mean, you can look at your life purpose, but also your career purpose. Like, why are you in the fire service? Why do you do what you do? Where do you want to go? Like you said, if you don't.
Where do you want to go, Will? Where's your career skyrocket to?
I mean, I don't know.
Skyrocket to number 3 lieutenant. Is that the end of the ride for you?
I'm gonna be 926 the rest of my life. No.
You really 926?
I am 926.
That was my lieutenant's
Is that your
number.
lieutenant
Yeah.
number?
Wow.
It's pretty awesome.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Look at you.
Maybe
You and Chris
when they
Evans.
promote- why do you have to bring that up? But no, I'm like, I don't know where I want to end up at. If I want to go to be aspirate and try to go all the way to a head chief level, but definitely at some chief level. I want to be a captain for a long while, but because I feel like they are very very influential because you get to deal with your guys every day.
Right.
Whereas battalion chief, he's over a battalion, or in our case, the whole shift, but he doesn't have that same personal, intimate relationship with those two guys or however many are underneath him, and the training aspect of it is just a little bit broader. So no, I mean I do have aspirations of making it to that chief level. Just don't know exactly where that will end.
Right. So yeah, no, I dig it. I agree. So you got to have an idea. I think things change over time. Maybe you start out wanting to be a battalion chief or the chief, and then you spend some time in the fire service and you find your heart somewhere else. Maybe if you'd asked me when I was 21, I would have told you that I want to be the fire chief.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I feel that way now. Just a lot of stress and happiness comes with being a fire chief.
Right.
And maybe that's because of the way that job is portrayed. Maybe that's what this is about here. Maybe you tie that in this article and say, well, how many fire chiefs you know that really like being fire chiefs?
Right.
Well, I know some, but a lot of times it seems like it's more trouble than it's worth. And again, it may be back to what we're talking about here.
Yeah. I mean, I know that's a very extra stressful job, but some people could look at, the job of a captain of a company officer, and there are people that are just super negative about that job. And I hate this. I wish I was a lieutenant again, and on and on and on. But somebody like you, who I saw and had the good fortune to work underneath, and saw how you can still have fun as a captain, and still get the job done, still train your guys, and at the end of the day, still laugh about stuff.
Right.
So I think you do have those positive influences and portrayals of that position, and you've got the negative ones too. So
right on. So the second one, I don't know if you're ready now, so I'm just gonna take it. You got ready?
I got it. So number 2 is they concentrate on positive thoughts. And the author explains, I'm not saying to walk around all day with a fake smile. I'm just saying be genuine and true with people in a positive manner. Some of the best leaders I've worked under had this characteristic, and it made a room light up when they walked in. And I really get this because I have worked with people that are, like you said, they're negative all the time. They're griping about everything, and I'm just kind of like, you know what? A lot of times what they're griping about doesn't matter,
right?
In the grand scheme of things. Like, why are you going to fixate on this one thing that's not going your way or that you don't like? You woke up this morning. You get to come to work, hopefully make a positive impact in somebody's life today. But it's also very easy I was frustrated at work last night about some things, and it's easy to get down and frustrated and grouchy about stuff.
Absolutely.
I think you just kind of have to take a step back and look at things in perspective.
And sometimes once you get that reputation as being Debbie Downer, you just carry that with you everywhere you go.
Oh, yeah.
You walk into a room and people are like, oh, look, there's Will. He's going to come pee on our parade,
Right.
And when you have that attitude, people don't want to be around you. I think you can see that with the way bids go, station bids. Oftentimes guys who are negative, and a lot, sometimes guys will attribute that, well, I make my guys do their job and they don't want to work with this guy because I'm hard on them, whatever. But I don't think most of the time it's not that guys don't want to learn how to do their job or do their job. I think guys don't like the way you are negative about how their performance is or whatever. You can't watch a 10-second video clip of somebody doing something that you point out, well, his shoe's untied or he's wearing different colored socks or you can see his nose hairs. So I mean, like I said, you don't want to be that guy that sucks the fun out of the room.
Right.
I remember Chris Hayden used to say that, if his wife hears this, she's going to shoot me. But he used to say that his wife would take fun out in the woods and shoot it. And so they're still happily married. But you know what I mean? Sometimes when you got to be the adult, that happens.
Right.
So, anyways, yeah, you don't want to be the Debbie Downer.
No, you don't. And this kind of segues into number 3 on the list is they judge their wins and failures the same. So you don't get over-connected with your wins and your losses. Every time you lose a battle or lose your opinion over an issue, you're not just, the world's ending.
Right.
And you also don't, get too high when you win. Give yourself a false sense of pride or security or whatever you want to call it. It's just a nice, easy kill because nobody likes the guy that comes in and is just exuberant one day and the next day, he's got a frown on his face all day long.
Right.
I think in the fire service we've got to be steady.
Especially as an officer.
Oh yeah, definitely as an officer. And I mean, you can talk to that a whole lot more than I can, but the attitude of the company officer greatly affects that crew.
Right. So one of the things that you'll in your career, I was messing with you trying to get you to bid to my shift.
Right.
And made some kind of comment about you can toil away at mediocrity at threes, or you can come to A shift and I'll soar you to new heights or whatever BS I told you. But really, you'll try things with people and projects, and sometimes they work out and sometimes they don't.
Right.
Like you and I did a lot with the union trying to improve participation.
Mm-hmm.
So one day we have pizza and people seem to care for the pizza. So then we decided, it'd be great, an ice cream social. And all people did was complain about how there wasn't any food, there was just ice cream.
Yes.
Those are small instances of things changing, but ultimately, you try different training methodologies. You try, I'm gonna teach this different, I'm gonna do that different, and see how things work out. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose.
Try to see if they want to try, a better schedule change or whatever. That gets
Right,
shut down.
absolutely. Because you can't win them all.
Right.
And if you spend too much time dwelling on your losses, I think you end up negative.
Yeah.
On the same page, if you focus on all your wins and you don't try to broaden your horizons and move out there to new areas, you stay stagnant.
Mm-hmm.
And that's easy to do in the fire
It is
service.
very easy.
I'll give you an example, just real quick. So I had this training idea of things that I want to do for the fire service, right? I want to be this training captain. I work at Central, and so I'm on C shift and everything's working good. I've started acquiring all these structures. We're just, me and my guys at Central are cutting holes in roofs every day. I think you were there.
Probably.
It was great. And then when the station bits happened, I changed shifts, and my new battalion chief didn't like me being gone all the time, cutting holes in roofs and tearing down houses. And so I felt like, that hurt. My butt hurt about it. So I'm going to bid out to fours and disappear to the wilderness, which is what I did. So maybe I spent a little bit too much time focusing on my losses. Maybe I could have tried to stay up there at Central a little longer and try to figure out a way to get the best of both worlds.
Right.
But you just got to try new things, and I think on a positive note, going back to force was a good decision. It really got me to get back on the ambulance for a little while, and then I got promoted to battalion chief. So now I can do whatever I want to do. So that works out. But anyways, yeah. So you gotta move on past, because you're gonna lose some.
Right. You can't stay stuck on it.
Right. So leaders prioritize what is important. When items are stacking up against you and you feel the happiness turning into stress because of the amount of work you have, make a list and prioritize. It's always better to write it down and see what you're dealing with. And many times it's not as bad as you thought once you see it on paper. Sometimes that list will be long, extremely hard. Again, smile. It could always be worse. I read a book a few years ago called Eat That Frog. And it's basically telling you to make lists, and you look at that list and you find the thing that you want to do the least on it. Mm-hmm. So if the thing I want to do the least today is call Will and break up with him, I'm eating that frog first.
Right.
Doing it first thing, getting it out of the way, and then the rest of the crap on your list is not near as important.
Yeah.
And it makes your day go by easier. If I don't make lists, stuff doesn't get done.
Yeah.
I do it every day of my life. I make lists for everything that I do, because if I don't, none of it will get accomplished. And sometimes if I've done things, but like say that I had to go to the post office, I had to go to the bank, I had to send this email and write this paper. So if I've already gone to the bank and the post office before I make my list of things to do, I still write them down and cross them off.
Right, because then you see that
accomplishment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
I'm getting that way. I didn't really used to be like that, but my dad was like that, and I feel like I'm growing more like him in that of just more on my plate. And so if I don't make a list, there are things that I can forget about and not get done. But
it can happen easy. So
prioritization is very important.
Absolutely. Another quick thing that I read about, I want to say it's Eisenhower. Eisenhower did what he broke his activities into quadrants. Mm-hmm. And your number one quadrant was things you had to do. They're the most important. Your number two quadrants were things that you could get done, but they weren't that important. Your quadrant 3 was even less priority. And your quadrant 4 was just garbage, things that you like to do that bring you no purpose.
Right.
So things like playing video games or looking on your phone at Facebook or reading some comic in the Sunday News Times is a quadrant 4 activity.
Yeah.
When you start breaking down your things in a day in those quadrants, you kind of look at it and say, well, I spent a whole bunch of time in quadrant 4. I wake up in the morning and my alarm clock goes off and I look at Facebook for 15 minutes before I get out of bed.
Yeah.
That's a quadrant 4 activity. That's wasting time. And then I'm like, well, crap, I didn't get to work this morning. I like to be there at 7. I didn't get there until 7:15. Oh, I know why. I looked at Facebook for 15 minutes. I was supposed to send out these 2 emails and read this guy's paper and proofread it. Well, today I spent an hour and a half playing Spider-Man on the PlayStation 4 because I'm a 36-year-old child. So I spent so much time in quadrant 4 that I started having to really pay attention to those things. Now, that being said, I think if you don't spend any time in quadrant 4, you're going to be miserable.
Yes, you will be. Sometimes you need that quadrant 4 to just relax, unplug, kind of hit the reset button just a little bit. But if you stay there, then you won't be productive, and then you feel miserable as well.
So I wonder how much time I've spent in my life reading about being more productive while I could have been doing something more productive.
You got to learn about it first.
That's right, I guess so.
So number 5 is they don't compare themselves to others. I think very important in the fire service because you have those guys that are very successful. Several come to mind of people who have written books, and I mean we all come to do the job. We all have different gifts and talents that we bring to the table, but some just end up going far and being well known. It can, I guess, be easy for me to compare myself to them and be like, well, I'm not like them, so what am I doing here?
Right.
So I think you just gotta again go back to that. What is important? What is priority? Are you growing your career, advancing it, having that goal that you want to get to? And then, I mean, if it doesn't look like Joe Blow's goal next to you, then that doesn't matter.
Right. And it's easy to compare yourself to other people in the fire service. It's super easy. Everybody's different. Everybody's got different personalities. Everybody operates completely different. For me, a simple example of this, I got Tom Wilson was a mentor to me. Everybody knows Tom. And when I first got my instructor, I tried to be Tom Wilson. I wore this uniform with these military pants and my pants tucked in my boots and this military shirt. And I had my hair cut this way, and I was all like, let me tell you guys, blah, 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 and it just wasn't working for me.
Yeah.
And, I thought, I don't know what this works for Tom. Why doesn't this work for me? So one day I come to class, I'm teaching at this industry EMT class, and I show up wearing blue jeans and a polo shirt untucked and dress shoes and was normal. I was myself. I told jokes. And I explained things through stories and I just did me, if you will, and found I was a lot more successful.
Yeah. And
since that time, I realized that I can't teach like Tom Wilson because I'm not Tom Wilson.
Right.
I have to teach like me because that's who I am. When you look at, let's say that I look at, we got all this crap we got to do. I said crap, that's so bad. I got to do all this stuff at the fire department that sometimes isn't fun, like pre-plans, pitot hydrants and junk. And so I took over the shift in August, and they were kind of behind. And it's no fault to anybody else's. I just think there were other things they were really fixated on. There were probably most times you would say it's more important, maybe like training or whatever. But so I've been trying to get these pre-plan stuff done. So then I look at these other shifts and say, holy crap, Chief Golf, those guys have tested like 80 plugs. I've still got all of my plugs to test. But during that time, I don't know how many training sessions Chief Golf's had.
Right.
My shift has done multiple, and we're doing one Friday, where we're gonna use a cutting torch to cut some metal and train some guys that have never used a cutting torch before.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to fit it all in there together. So everybody's got different priorities, if you will. So you got to take care of things.
Right.
I think that was number 5, wasn't it?
Uh-huh.
I think we've taken this and drawn it out enough that we can stop right here.
Because I was looking at, number 6 is cultivating meaningful relationships. You could go.
Right. So I think we should stop here and make 2 episodes out of that.
I like it.
So if you got any questions you want to add to this, please feel free to contact us. You can email the show at fhkitchentablepod@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook at Firehouse Problems Kitchen Table Solutions. You can find us on Twitter at fhkitchentablepod at gmail. At fhkitchentablepod. There we go. If you want to talk to me, I'm Seth Rainwater on Instagram. It's Seth Rainwater on Twitter, and I'm Seth Rainwater on Facebook.
And we'll still be on Facebook, and we'll still be 9-2 on Instagram.
So, and one more quick thing, I want to give a shout out to Michael Cossey, friend of the show,
yes,
who developed our new logos.
We have an awesome new logo. Thanks.
So thanks for that. Soon I'm going to have those made into stickers, and we'll have Sylvia's going to set us up a square store like
Yep.
we did for the local, and we're going to sell
some
those.
merch.
Sell some merch. Like some of those Vine kids do, those YouTubers that my kids watch. My kids always want some kind of YouTubers crap off of,
Yeah.
buy a $40 t-shirt that says, Skybosh or whatever on it. I made that up. But
You did. You could make a T-shirt and you'd probably sell
hashtag
millions.
Skybosh. So anyways, thanks for listening. Remember to keep your head on a swivel and keep on training.
And you are always welcome at this kitchen table.